All right, guys, welcome back to the stream. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome. If you are new here, thank you guys so much for joining me today and waiting patiently, as always, for the intro to finish up. I hope everybody is doing well on this, what is it, Wednesday now? It's February 4th. Boss is here nice and early. But yeah, really appreciate you guys joining me once again. We have some topics to go over and talk about today. One of them, I think a lot of people are going to be pretty happy about, has to do with GTA 6. And it's rare that this happens, but we straight up have the CEO of Take-Two Interactive shutting down a recent report and a recent rumor, seemingly. So we're going to talk about that. And we're also talking about Xbox Magnus because AMD pretty much just came out and confirmed it and locked it in and apparently said it on Microsoft's behalf, which is interesting, where they're like, yeah, we got that new Xbox we're making and it's coming out next year. So we're going to have a discussion there. And we're also going to kind of talk about whether or not, like if, for example, Xbox Magnus does not get delayed, do we think Sony will feel not pressured, but like, yeah, we're going to launch two? Or do you think they'll still wait? Would they still be willing to delay it? So we're going to have these conversations today. Let me see here. I have to increase the size of that for a second. Josh Nuggets is here. We'll try to get you a membership once again. Michael Lynch, the first PS6 chip, is out there and will now be tested. That's the big news for me. Where did you hear that? Or is that in regards, I guess, to what AMD is putting out, I assume? Do I have any new links for the Discord? The one posted in the description is not working. Yeah. Ray, I don't know if you're here, buddy. We'll ask Ray. He'll get right on that when he can. He's always dropping links to the Discord. And yeah, if you do see that Discord link in the chat at some point, feel free to join. Thank you, Ray. There we go. Ray drops it for you. Anybody can join the Discord. It's pretty fun over there. Pretty chill, I'd say. So yeah, go check that out. And Ray, thank you once again for he's always on it. He's reliable with that Discord link. TCMF did a video on it. Okay, I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that. PlayStation also has no games, according to some people. Yeah. Neo 3 has excellent reviews. It's considered Team Ninja's best game to date. I saw that. Yeah. Neo 3 is reviewing really well. So good on them, man. They must be pretty happy. I'm not surprised. I mean, for what I played of Neo 3, the quality's definitely there. I could tell. If GTA 6 has a collector's edition, scalpers are going to have them bought up in minutes. Oh, yeah. Probably. He's lying. It's hectic. It depends on where you're hanging out, I suppose. Be careful. There are leaks spreading on the net for RE9. Well, that's annoying. Yeah, we'll have to be on the lookout for that. I don't know. I try to avoid spoilers when I can, but spoilers don't really ruin anything for me. I'll be honest. I'm just not like that anymore, you know? I used to care, but I don't know. I care more about my firsthand experience with something. You could tell me like this, and that happens. I'm like, cool, whatever. But until I experience it myself, it pretty much doesn't mean anything to me. But yeah, but I get it. You know, for a lot of people, spoilers are the bane of their existence and can absolutely ruin something for them. So I totally get it. Totally get it. A PS5 Pro bundle with GTA 6 will fly out the door. Yeah, I'm still curious to see if they end up doing that or not. You know, I showed you guys that image where Sony has done a hardware bundle for every GTA game except the first two, GTA 1 and 2 on the PlayStation 1. Outside of that, they've done it every time, even for the PSP. So it would be genuinely kind of shocking if they didn't do it for, um, you know, for GTA 6. Ray says, MBG, I've been using PSVR 2 a lot, but in cinema mode, and I gotta say, it's awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear you're enjoying it, Ray. Yeah, PSVR 2 is pretty awesome. I haven't used it that much. I've used the cinema mode, I think, just a couple of times, but for the few times I did, I was like, yeah, this is pretty sick. Ghetto God says, I just got a flat tire and had to call a tow truck. They told me an hour and a half, so now I'm sitting here stranded. Thank God you're live right now. Well, I'm glad I could help, Ghetto God. Yeah, that sucks, dude. Me and Boss will keep you company. Actually, I'm just kidding. I'm ending the stream now, so you're on your own, Ghetto God. Peace, bro. Nah, I don't know how long today's stream will be. Today might be on the shorter side. We'll have to see. I say that, but then we end up going for 3.5 hours. We'll see where it takes us. Josh, you're saying context makes spoilers pointless. Boss, can you like figure out what you want to do with your life, man? Because chill. Tomorrow is Sony's earnings. Is it tomorrow? I guess that makes sense. Everybody's putting their earnings out. Going to do some MBG AI. Thank you. Thank you. Crimson Desert will have a great version on the PS5 Pro, according to the devs. Yeah, they've been doing some interviews. They've been talking. I mean, the game looks good. Somebody had mentioned that they think the contrast looks a little off with that game. Like it looks too high. And ever since somebody said that, I'm like, yeah, I kind of noticed that too now. But yeah, the reviews for something like Crimson Desert are going to be very interesting because I feel like, this is a game that has so much expectation around it. It seems, I think for a lot of people, Crimson Desert is a game that's like, okay, what are you hiding? I think people have this feeling of there's something that's being hidden, something that's kind of not really come to the surface yet that's going to be considered like a major flaw of the game. And so I think the review cycle for Crimson Desert will be an interesting one because it's definitely got a lot going on. Michael, you're saying Crimson Desert looks impressive, but I just can't muster up any excitement for it. I mean, I kind of feel where you're coming from. Oh, Joseph, I'm sorry to hear that, man. Well, good luck. I kind of understand where you're coming from, Michael, because I kind of feel somewhat similarly, where I do feel that Crimson Desert looks good. It looks impressive. It's got a lot going on, but it hasn't gotten me like, whoa, like I'm like super stoked to play this game. It's more along the lines of it looks really good and it's a game I want to play at some point, but it's not necessarily like a priority for me. That's kind of my general feel on Crimson Desert, but yeah, I think it seems like no matter what, it'll be at the very least a good game. Perfect Image, you sent me a direct donation. Thank you for that, buddy. He says, I was right to follow the sources I had for GTA 6 and understanding GTA 5's source code from SteamDB. Wait until the Take-Two call. Perfect Image was right. He was right. I don't know what exactly he was right about, but he was right. Perfect Image, thank you, man. Sparky Nuts, you're saying the game looks like one of those games that is super impressive visually, then runs at 720p on the Pro and 360p on the Series S. Yeah, Yeah, I hear you. Fable has you worried? Hmm. Josh says it's a partner direct, not a regular direct, so Sony could show up. Oh, yeah, you know what? Yeah, maybe I will watch it because of that. I guess the partner directs would be a little bit more interesting. I wonder what Sony. I'm trying to think like if they were to show up with anything, what would it be? Horizon Zero Dawn. I doubt it. I don't know. I doubt it. Do you think tomorrow PlayStation will surpass 93 million PS5 units? No. I think the number you would want to shoot for if you're paying attention to console sales is 90 million, not 93. I'm thinking the last update was like 85 million. So by now, I mean, maybe they could be at 90, which would be great. They'd be in great position. 93 million seems a bit much. A God of War Lego game. Yo, that would low key kind of be sick. But all right, guys, we are going to cover a few of these topics here, okay? So I don't know how long today's stream is going to be. Like I said, mainly because, well, we don't have a ton of topics, but I don't know how long we're going to discuss these topics. But we got two, I would say, pretty interesting ones. But Sony's at 90 million now. I'm pretty sure the last update we got was like 85 million, right? But, jeez. But the first topic, we're going to talk about Magnus, and then we're going to talk about GTA. Or maybe we could just kind of blend them together. Boss, you got to decide what you want to do, man. You chilling over there? You chilling here? Where are you chilling? All right, look. So we did hit our goal yesterday, and I never did give him treats. I'm going to give him some treats now. I owe him that. Just a few. All right. And Luna's here. We're going to start with Magnus. So we've talked extensively about Xbox Magnus, and we have a new report here from WCCF Tech. They say the next gen Xbox from Microsoft, which we know will be powered by a semi-custom SoC currently in development from AMD, is progressing well to support a launch in 2027. This is what AMD's Chief Executive Officer Lisa Su had to say during the company's 2025 fourth quarter earnings call. Quote, for 2026, we expect semi-custom SoC annual revenue to decline by a significant double-digit percentage as we enter the seventh year of what has been a very strong console cycle. From a product standpoint, Valve is on track to begin shipping its AMD Steam-powered or AMD-powered Steam machine early this year, and development of Microsoft's next-gen Xbox featuring an AMD semi-custom SoC is progressing well to support a launch in 2027. Now, I also want to say I find it fascinating that no mention of the PlayStation 6. I have to imagine this was very intentional. I have to imagine that Sony made it clear, do not say anything because we don't know. I don't want to read too much into it, but I do wonder if that is maybe another hint that Sony may actually be delaying the PlayStation 6 because, well, I don't know. They could have said with the PlayStation 6 coming later on, but either way, I think it's just something to, take a small note of is, they're talking about the Steam machine, they're talking about the Xbox Magnus, no word on PlayStation. Maybe they're just not at liberty to speak on it. Yeah, you know what? I'll give Luna some treats too. Go ahead, Luna. But yeah, the big takeaway here is what was said about Magnus. It was stated just directly that the SoC is progressing well to support a launch in 2027. Now, we have to understand the wording here is this isn't AMD flat out saying it will launch in 2027, but they are confirming that the intention that Microsoft has is to launch this console in what I would presume to be holiday 2027. So it doesn't mean it can't get delayed, but it just means that they're on track where if Microsoft locks it in and they want to do holiday 2027, it'll be ready to go. But when we talk about Xbox Magnus, well, I mean, there's quite a bit to discuss, right? I put out a post on Twitter, which I don't understand why posts like this get some people riled up, but it does. I guess it's nothing new. But I basically put out a post summarizing everything we currently know about Xbox Magnus. So we know it's the next Xbox, but for a lot of people, it doesn't actually feel like it's going to be an Xbox. It feels like it's just going to be a premium PC. But the expected launch is sometime in 2027. However, it could end up getting delayed into 2028 or later due to the RAM crisis, as well as just what's going on with component prices in general. But one of the more important things about Magnus is it's expected to be a very premium, but also very powerful device. And I think this part right here is what will completely separate it from the PlayStation 6. We've heard from reliable sources, from reliable insiders who are credible and have given very good information that they're expecting this device to be anywhere between 1,000 and 1,500 US dollars. Now that estimate was given before the RAM issue and potential GPU prices going up as well. So it very well could end up being more than 1,500 depending on if Microsoft wants to actually launch it. But one of the reasons why it's going to be so expensive is because it's going to be very powerful. The power factor for Xbox Magnus, according to Kepler L2, it's going to be on par with an RTX 5080. So, yeah, if you're wondering if this thing is going to be a monster, it will be in terms of what it can output and what it can do for games. But you're absolutely going to be paying for that power factor. But where things start to get really shaky for Xbox Magnus is it is going to be Windows based. It's going to be a Windows 11 device. However, apparently Microsoft is working on some kind of console wrap, some kind of console, not software, but I guess like a kind of OS, something you can run to make it just feel more like an Xbox console and less like a Windows device. Um, According to Jez Corden, we talked a little bit about this yesterday. According to his sources, Microsoft is having a very hard time figuring that out. Apparently, that is not coming together well. Um, I don't know if this would cause them to delay it, but this whole idea that they have of trying to like make a more console oriented UI, but it's running off of like Windows 11, it seems to not be going well. That's what he said. That's what he's reporting. And then one of the big things about Magnus is it's going to offer access to multiple storefronts, including Steam. Yeah, Jez Corden, I'm a little bit mixed on because sometimes he just seems like he's totally wrong about things. But when he talks about Xbox stuff, like that's where he basically says that's where you want to pay attention to me because I have good sources. And I don't know, man. Like, I don't really take it too seriously. It's like, okay. I mean, some stuff sounds believable, other stuff doesn't. I feel like there are people with better track records, but that, listen, when it comes to, and I've said this about all insiders, this isn't necessarily a defense for Jez Corden, but it's just, I've seen this with, people that have had like incredible track records. Everybody gets stuff wrong. I guess it's just a matter of how much you get wrong compared to how much you get right. Truthfully, I don't know. I've been paying attention to some of the Xbox stuff, but a lot of it ends up just kind of going past me because I'm not as tuned in. But I will say, they make things up just like all the gaming publications. I mean, yeah, these days, dude, I feel like rumors and leaks could be true, but then it's like, oh, actually, we're just going to change that. I've noticed that. Like, that's something I've noticed more recently where it seems like a lot of these companies I mean, they will literally like pivot on a dime, man. And I'm like, that's interesting. I feel like it wasn't. It didn't always used to be so, you know, unpredictable. I suppose. Yeah, Devil Shooter. That was the big one. That was the big one. That was the big one. Watching from Jamaica. What's up? Yeah, what's up, man? Even with the OS, if a bad Windows update happens, it could mess up the console function wise. Windows is a part of it. Yeah, I saw that with the Xbox ROG Ally. I saw that apparently, like some kind of Windows update came out and it broke it. It made it so like the UI is not functioning properly or something for the Ally X, and I'm like, damn, that. Yeah, I don't know, man. Windows, from what I understand, just it has a lot of baggage, and if you're coming from a more console oriented environment, you're just kind of used to things being very, very streamlined and things like that just not really being a factor, right? But when it comes to the Magnus console, I think that a lot of people, from what I can tell, there's basically like two groups of people with this console. The first group is a very, very small group of people who are very excited for this machine. They love everything they're hearing, or most of what they're hearing. And I encounter these people, and there's nothing wrong with this. It's clear that, Microsoft is making this device for a group, and I think I encounter them somewhat often because we do talk about it here on the channel, and I talk about it on Twitter sometimes. And there are people where they're like, yeah, I'll pay whatever. I don't care how much it is. I want this thing. But I do think that in the bigger picture, and this is something that it's going to be so interesting to watch this unfold and see how we navigate this, where I think there are a lot of people who, as they encounter these rumors and these leaks regarding, the Xbox Magnus, I think there's a lot of people who don't understand. They will eventually, but they don't understand that like this is not a PlayStation 6 competitor. This is not going to be similar to the Xbox Series X or the Xbox One or the Xbox 360 or the original Xbox. This is going to be something very different. And I think that there's just a lot of people who don't realize that yet. And when they do, I don't know how, well, if I'm being honest, I think the reaction is going to be kind of bad. Like I think there's a lot of people who are unaware that, yes, the next Xbox is going to be like $1,000 or more. And I think when people see that, they're going to like dunk on it and stuff and be like, hell no. But, from Microsoft's perspective, I don't think Microsoft is going to care at all because they're like, yeah, no, it's cool. Like we don't expect you to buy this. You know what I mean? Like I think Microsoft literally doesn't expect people to buy this. It's there for the enthusiast Xbox player who still wants an Xbox, branded device from Microsoft. And I think outside of that, this is why when I talk about the possibility of a delay, I'm like, I don't think Microsoft needs to worry about delaying it. I think that's like the one advantage they have over Sony here, where like, or not even just Sony, but like in general, where it's like, yeah, we'll price it at $2,000. That's fine. Unless there's a major disconnect with my thought process, unless Microsoft secretly is like, this thing's going to do great. But I can't imagine that. And we have Anime for Entertainment, a member for 30 months. Thank you for that, buddy. He says, could we see Naughty Dog's secret other new IP at the upcoming State of Play? That's a great question, Anime. I mean, I want to say anything is possible, but what I will add to that is we did cover a recent report that apparently they were kind of, they as in Naughty Dog, they were crunching to put together an intergalactic demo to present to Sony. It sounds like Sony kind of requested it. They're like, we want to see progress of the game. I'm assuming to present to Herman Holst. That's my guess. because he's the head of PlayStation first party. So with that in mind, I would lean more towards, if they're this far out with Intergalactic, then their second game is probably even further out. That doesn't necessarily mean they couldn't announce it, but I just don't know it would be a wise decision for Naughty Dog to announce two games at once, where it's like, I mean, you might cause some confusion, but I think it would have a benefit where, on the flip side of that, people I think would be less mad at Naughty Dog because it's like, oh, now they have two games and two is better than one. But yeah, anime for entertainment, I'm going to lean more towards no. I don't think that's going to show up. My assumption is we won't have that second secret single. Well, it's not a secret. They did confirm it's in development, but I don't think we're going to see that announced until after Intergalactic launches. So I think we have some time. If the PS6 is $800, will you make a retraction? Well, a retraction on what, Capono? The PlayStation. Listen, I'm gonna tell you right now. You guys have to believe me on this. All right. Sony will not launch the PlayStation 6 at $800. You have to understand that. I know that people immediately look at the PS5 Pro and they're like, but the PS5 Pro, and I get it. But you have to understand, you know how I just said Microsoft doesn't care if people buy the upcoming Xbox Magnus? They don't. And so what that means is they don't have to care about pricing. Microsoft could easily charge $2,000 for Magnus and make $1,000. I don't think it'd be $1,000 profit, but like a $700 profit on every device sold. And it's like, how many are we selling? We sold 1 million, just 1 million. That's all we sold. Okay, what's the profit margin look like? Looks amazing. That's all that matters to Microsoft, in my opinion. I think they're telegraphing that pretty clearly. But that's not the position Sony will be in with the PlayStation 6 at all. Sony, I'll put this out here. If Sony were to launch the PlayStation 6 at $800, it will basically be DOA. And I have to emphasize the word basically, essentially, where yes, it will sell initially. Yes, there will be excitement initially. Yes, you will have the hardcore PlayStation enthusiasts buying it day one, and it'll sell for a couple months. Then it's going to hit a brick wall. Once you cross into that threshold of now you need to hit the mass market. You're not selling to enthusiasts anymore. Now you're selling to not just the casual, but even the core casual, And Sony knows that. Like, Sony completely understands if they try to sell the PlayStation 6 at $800, it's going to hit a wall very quickly. And maybe DOA is that's literally the wrong term to use. I just realized I said it would be DOA, but then do well at launch. So DOA is the wrong term to use. A more appropriate term would be, it's going to be a short-term success, like very short-term, where the PS6 would definitely get off to a solid start, even at $800, just due to the branding, just due to it's the PS6, the hype around it, surrounding it, a little bit of FOMO. But that wall will be within a couple months. And so when that happens, if that were to happen, Sony their entire business model would collapse very rapidly. Where it's like, what does your business model hinge on? Our business model hinges on us selling a home console in the tens of millions, leading to 100 million over the course of 5 to 7 years. Okay, do you think you're going to do that with an $800 home console? No, that's not going to happen. So unless there's a major disconnect here where internally Sony's like, actually, we don't care. We're going to change our business model. We're not leaning on the PS6 selling as well. That's not as important to us. But my question is, if that's the case, what's replacing it? Because if Sony were to give up caring about hardware sales, which is, again, the bread and butter of their entire business model, has been for the entirety of PlayStation's history, if you're going to trade that in for something else or replace it, I should say, what are you replacing it with? I have no idea what that would be. Cloud streaming? Good luck. So, I think that people need to just ultimately, when we have this conversation, like we will continue to have these conversations about next gen, right? But, I think that the biggest thing that people need to understand is that between Sony and Microsoft, I think their mentality behind their hardware is night and day difference. Complete night and day difference. IGN is having an Overwatch stream. People still play that game. Sparky Nuts, you're saying MBG, but last week you were saying they may treat it as an extension of the PS5 family, like a PS5 Pro, and mainly continue to market the PS5 until prices for tech lower. And they could. Like, to be clear, Sparky Nuts, I don't know exactly what Sony's actual plan is going to be here. I have a tendency to lean more towards what I think is the safest bet, which is they'll do what they've always done because it's always worked. If they were to do something like that, it is an option, but it's super risky. The reason why it's really risky to do that is because, well, you know, first impressions are everything, right? And if Sony were to make the decision that we're basically going to soft launch the PlayStation 6 and we're going to position it as a very premium upgrade that you don't need, right? Like, we're not going to push it as hard. And the reason we're not is because we're going to position the PS5 next to it. So really it's less about getting you to upgrade to the PS6 and just getting you into the family of PS5 and PS6 ecosystem. If Sony were to do that, then it means that at some point in the future, they would have to basically relaunch the PlayStation 6. Not literally relaunch it, but a soft relaunch or an aggressive one where, okay, now we can drop the price to from $800 to $550. Massive price cut. We're going to do a whole showcase, and we're basically going to just relaunch it. The reason why that's so risky is because, if Sony were to come out with an $800 PS6, it's not going to, it's going to have bad PR all over it. Yeah, the PS6 Slim, there you go. Yeah, they could do that. That playbook is basically the PS3 playbook. The problem with that is Sony that wasn't intentional. You know what I'm saying? That was literally accidental, where they didn't expect the PS3 to fail up front, and they had to really figure out how to relaunch the PS3 a couple of years later. And they did so very successfully. So, that's one of the coolest moments in PlayStation history where you see Sony actually in real time, they did it. They turned it around. They did a 180. That rarely ever happens. You have to be so lucky in the middle of a generation to make that happen. To kind of do that intentionally, you can kind of see the risk that's associated with it, where, okay, what if we only get one shot and we blow it and we can't really recover from it? At that point, it would be clear, well, you would have been better delaying it and waiting for the price to come down and just have that one, here it is, PS6, $550, $600 moment, rather than here it is, PS6, we have to charge $800. Technically, they could charge. Again, the biggest wild card here, guys, I'm going to tell you this right now. When we talk about the PlayStation 6 specifically, this does not pertain to Magnus, because we already know Microsoft is not doing this with Magnus. The biggest wild card And because I have no idea how Hiroki Totoki, the current CEO of Sony, or Hideaki Nishino, the CEO of PlayStation, I have no idea how they feel about this. Worst case scenario, Sony could kind of go back to the way they did do things previously, where we're going to subsidize it. The problem with that is Sony's in a very different position than they were previously when they were subsidizing their hardware with the PS1, the PS2, the PS3. And, you know, it would basically confirm to their investors, we're going to have to take a short term loss, but for long term gains. And you guys see how things are in the year 2026. You see how investors are in the year 2026. Like, that's the last thing they want to hear. Sony would have to, they would be asking for a lot of goodwill, a lot of faith from their investors. And I don't know, man. $800 is not worth what 800 was during the PS3 era, though. That's absolutely true. That is true. And, you know, look at wage suppression and dollar debasement running up against consumer culture in America. It's meant that the wage base that's that supported consoles is collapsing. That's true. And see, when you look at that reality, that's why I always say, like, dude, Sony is in such a precarious position where it's like, what are we doing here? Like, what's the play, Sony? Like, this is why people like Jim Ryan, not that he necessarily foresaw. Of course, somebody like Jim Ryan could not foresee all this happening in just 3 years. But there was kind of this looming, like, we're on top. We're doing really good. I think I'm gonna pass the next gen to the next guy. I'm good. I think this is good enough. And I mean, I got to tell you, man, like the position that Sony finds themselves in with gaming, I've talked about this before, and I do wonder, like, I wonder if Sony has a kind of like break glass in case of emergency type thing where they actually do have like a plan B. And that plan B, I guess, would be like, we're pivoting to another business model. If Sony was wise and had any foresight, they would absolutely have that ready. Because you know who didn't have that ready? Microsoft. And pretty much every other company that this happened to, where like they just had to, figure it out as it was happening. They had to figure out their escape plan as the ship was sinking. They didn't prepare one ahead of time. And, I really think that if there's anything Sony surely has learned in watching them defeat, not like just defeat, but watching what happened with Xbox, watching what happened with Sega, and seeing the different struggles that Nintendo has went through, and even Sony going through what they did with the PS3, it's like you would think that they have some kind of backup plan. Not a guarantee that it will work, but it's like, yeah, we have to break this glass now because it is an emergency. And I feel like we're getting closer to that scenario being a reality where, again, it's not that people won't buy PS6s. It's not that Sony won't still have that audience. It's that audience could shrink by tens of millions in a very short period of time because, well, not only just what you said, Titus, but even just the fact that, there's more options to choose from than ever before. That, the value of the dollar eroding, people having less spending power, people being unsure of everything that's going on. That also up against anybody who currently has a PS5 and especially PS5 Pro being like, this is pretty good. It's like, holy shit, man, you got a storm brewing with the PlayStation 6. You got a fucking storm, Sony. And that's not me saying it's going to fail or it's going to, be a bad, like, that's not me fear mongering. It's just real. It's like, these are things that Sony actually has to fight against now with the PlayStation 6 that they didn't have to fight against nearly as much with the PS5, especially the PS4, and even, previous generations before that. And so it is kind of like an unprecedented situation that Sony finds themselves in. And what makes it doubly interesting, in my opinion, is that they're kind of the only ones in this position. Nintendo isn't in this position because Nintendo's doing something completely different. Microsoft isn't in this position because they said, "Yeah, we're bowing out of the hardware space in that sense." Right? They're not looking for mass market success. And if anything, Microsoft wants to see the PS6 do well and the PS5 continue to do well because that's where they're going to make a lot of their money now, through publishing. So, yeah, I mean, dude, it's going to be so fucking interesting to see how Sony navigates this territory that's coming up and how they're going to wade through it. Where I'm telling you, man, I don't think the conversation, I think initially the conversation will be, PlayStation 6 versus Xbox Magnus. But I think what the real conversation is going to be the PlayStation 6 versus the economy, the PlayStation 6 versus the PS5 and the PS5 Pro, the PlayStation 6 versus, the fact that games already look fucking great on your PS5. How much better can it get? I think those are the things that are really going to make people stop and be like, I'm good. I don't think it's like a matter of do I choose the Xbox or the PlayStation or the Xbox. I do not think that's a factor anymore. And I think, I think some level of proof to this is the fact that, yeah, like you do see Sony putting Helldivers 2 on Xbox. You see Marathon still shipping on Xbox, even though Sony basically has full control over Bungie now. It's because, yeah, dude, like Sony knows what time it is. They know the score. It's like, bro, there's different battles now, that are going to be fought. And I don't know. I don't necessarily feel fully confident. Like if you were to ask me, like, well, MBG, what do you think they're going to do? I don't really have a confidence level in any area. I mean, I guess I would say like I'm leaning slightly more towards I think Sony will not overprice the PS6. I think that's like the singular most important thing where it's like you might have to eat it for a bit. Sony, you'll live. It'll be okay. And if the investors want to get scared and leave because you're willing to subsidize it, the cost of it, and you have to eat a little bit up front, then let them leave. They'll come back once they realize, like, actually, that's the smart thing to do. But I'm just afraid Sony's going to be stupid and be like, nah, we're going to charge $800. And it's like, okay. Like, well, there it is. If they come out with an $800, even a $700 PS6, I mean, it's not going to sell. It's not going to sell 80 million units. It's not going to sell 100 million. It's going to cap out somewhere way before that. And again, if Sony has a plan B in place and they're like, yeah, we prepared for that, then it'll be fine. But everything I've been following with Sony, I don't think, I don't know. I don't even know what their plan B would be, man. I guess their plan B would be like I said, put PlayStation everywhere. Put it everywhere. But like, there's no guarantee that that'll just change everything, Like, I don't know. We saw Microsoft do that with Xbox, and it's like, I don't really know that it did that much. I don't know. Dwayne, what's going on, man? Titus, you're saying my take: Sony should release the PS6 as low as they can in 2027, then support it with PS6 versions of everything. But what people can't buy, they won't buy. MBG, PlayStation basically has a monopoly in the console business. PS6 will be fine if priced right. If priced right, I agree. I agree with that. If priced right, that's the big thing. How much do I think? I mean, dude, like, I think the absolute high water mark for like the absolute highest Sony can go without a disc drive. But even then, it's going to get messy, bro. Without a disc drive, I think 600. Like, preferably disc drive model 600. Because I'm just saying, like, once you cross that 600 threshold, oh, it's just not good. Like, it's not good, man. It's just not good. And Sony knows that. Everybody knows that. So I think Sony needs to do everything they can, even if it does mean delaying it. I mean, if you got to delay it, delay it. But I would rather just see them eat it, bro. I would. That would be such a cool thing to see because it just feels like something you don't see. If Sony just came out and said, we're going to eat the cost so we can keep this at 600, 600 is still a lot of money. But people will recognize that. They'll be like, well, damn, that's still, it could be a lot worse, right? Like we know it could be a lot worse. And I think it could help it kind of stand out. But I don't know, man. We're in uncharted territory here. MBG, I think it'll hit a brick wall. Even if it's priced at $500, it'll compete against the Switch 2 and PS5. Sony's undoing themselves. That's a possibility. This is where the confidence. The only thing I can add to that, Tarnished, is Sony knows everything we don't. Right? That's like the big thing here. Sony knows what games they have in development. Sony knows what deals they have in place. Sony knows that they haven't done a showcase since 2023. And that people have been waiting for that. Sony knows that there's many different cards they can play that we don't even know they have yet. The question is, how. I guess the question is what exactly those cards are and if it's really going to be enough to win the game, so to speak. I think neither of us know that. I don't see how the PS6 would be cheaper than a Pro. I mean, like, in terms of how much it would cost to produce, I don't think it would be. I don't think so. I mean, I think there's certain areas, I think, just due to the efficiency of RDNA 5 and I think the size of it ultimately, like the APU size. I think there's some areas they can save on, but yeah, more broadly speaking, especially when you look at like what's going on with RAM, it's like, I think it just comes down to, like I said, you can price it cheaper than the PS5 Pro, but you're gonna have to do so at a loss. Chat, you'll have to stop talking about things going all digital, no disc drive needed, but people have PS4 and PS5 disc games. How are you going to play them on PS6? It's going to need a disc drive. Dude, I'm telling you now, Ray, like if there's something that is becoming kind of more clear in my mind as we, get closer, we're still a ways out and we don't know if it's going to get delayed. Something that's becoming more clear in my mind with the PS6 is this is going to be messy. It's going to be messy. And it doesn't have to be that messy. I guess what I'm trying to say is like Sony has a lot to communicate, man. And they're going to need to fucking be, just perfect in every single aspect of the PS6 generation they communicate. Because even just what you said, Ray, it's like, yeah, well, of course, people have PS4 discs and PS5 discs, and they're going to be expecting a disc drive. And this means there's going to be two models of the PS5, presumably with, one with a detachable disc drive. What does this mean about the disc drive that you currently have if you already bought one for $80? Is that going to be able to be used on the PS6, or is it just like, no, sorry, you're shit out of luck, you got to buy another one, right? What does this mean for the PlayStation 6 handheld, where Sony's going to come out and be like, check out this really awesome PS6 handheld that plays all these games natively? And it's like, well, Mr. Sony, sir, I have like 100 physical games. It's like, well, you're shit out of luck, buddy. Like, it's just like, there's so much going on with this that it's like, bro, I don't know. I'm just afraid that Sony's going to fuck up the messaging ultimately. It like the pricing, the messaging, there's so much that can go wrong. They have to be, we have to see Sony really, I think, thread a needle. Like, Sony has to be just as good, if not better, than they were during the middle of the PS3 gen. Do you remember when Sony, do you remember what they did during the middle of the PS3 gen, where they just like woke up and they're like, we're activating and going forward every E3, every show we do, every presentation, it's just going to be boom, 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 boom. And it's just going to work. and we're just going to win people over every single time we show up, and that carried into the PS4 gen. We need to see them do more than that this time because there's going to be so many more complications now. That's like the one major differentiating factor between what we're going into with the PlayStation 6 generation versus what we've seen with almost every previous generation. PS5 being the most complex, but still, I'd say relatively simple. Things are just getting more complex, man. And if Sony really wants to go all in, where like they're going to have a handheld and they're going to have a disk drive model, a digital model, and all this stuff. I mean, granted, there is this idea that the PS5 generation is when people are being conditioned with this. They're introduced to it. They're getting used to it. So it is kind of expected. But I still think Sony runs the risk of like you can't overwhelm the customer. You like I'm not trying to say people are stupid, but I mean it's not that people are stupid. It's just they're only going to be able to digest so much information and process so much, in a time when, I mean, there's so much else going on. So let me tell you, man, I am so, in case you can't tell, I'm so fast. People are stupid though. Yeah, I guess they are. I'm so fascinated to see how this work plays out, man, because I think getting back to Magnus, the more we kind of talk about the PlayStation side of things, you see how like almost pretty much nothing I said there has anything to do with Magnus, because again, I think Magnus is just something that's like we're here if you want us, but we're gonna cost like $1,500, so whatever, bro. And I think that's kind of what everything I just described is what Microsoft bowed out of. Like Microsoft doesn't have to worry about that now. Microsoft isn't worried about anything I just mentioned. And the price to be paid there is, well, your console's not really going to sell then. And that's the thing, is Microsoft's like, okay, that's fine. We're going to focus on selling software anyway. Sony's obviously still going to focus on selling software, but there's just no denying that the very thing that has made PlayStation the success that it is today in the games industry, that being the console hardware, it's running into a new challenge that, frankly, I don't think we've ever seen a console run up against a challenge this great before. Not on this scale, where almost everything that could be working against it is, at least right now, remains to be seen how things change going into 2027 and later this year. But right now, almost every single thing that could work against this next console is currently working against it. And, I guess I'm just saying, like, if I was in charge of PlayStation, I would be sweating bullets where I'm like, well, that's just fucking great, isn't it? Like, of course, I'm like Hideaki Nishino or Herman Hulst. It's like, of course, my time up. It's my turn now. Shit's going to hit the fan. But Sony's been through, they've been through some shit before, so we'll see. All right, let me head over to the chat here. A lot of people live hand to mouth. That's true. That's true. I understand if it breaks the traditional norms, but we talk about a console that hasn't come out yet being delayed, even though it hasn't ever been announced officially. Well, yeah, but that's true. But it just goes to show, like, it's in people's minds. And granted, one of the biggest reasons why people are talking about the PlayStation 6, or have been, the reason why it's even been part of the conversation to begin with, is because of the leaks. How it's like, yeah, Sony's currently, working. I mean, even Sony themselves have talked about it. They haven't named it, but they've talked about it where it's like, yeah, we're working with AMD. Mark Cerny's like, here's basically the technology that's going to fuel PS6 games and run them. And it's like, you didn't call that, you didn't say PS6, but he doesn't have to. Like, everybody knows, like, that's what he's talking about. And then you get like the APU leaks where you get somebody like Moore's Law is dead, literally like, here's the actual specs that the PS6 is going to be, and it's going to get manufactured next year. So it's becoming more and more real, and that's why there's so much talk about a possible delay, because it's just one of these things where Sony delaying the PS6 by a year, maybe a year and a half, could be the difference between you saved your console versus you fucked up. Like, you should have delayed it. And now it's going to like really stumble out of the gate. MBG, I don't think the PS6 will have a single exclusive for 5 years in its lifetime, since all its games must run on the PS6 Portable, which is a weaker system than the base PS5. I mean, that makes things even more awkward, Tarnished, right? Like, it makes things more awkward because what you just said, based off of everything we know, is true. Where my understanding is that PS6 games will be able to take advantage of RDNA 5 technologies that, for example, even if you want to like port that game to the PS5, those technologies will not be of it. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is that, yeah, no, I don't know. Hold on. The more I'm thinking about it, yeah, that's an awkward predicament to be in. It's not. So here's the thing. It's not a Series S scenario, to be clear. This is actually different, but it could have its own set of problems. And that set of problems is actually opposite, I think, of what we have seen with the Series S. So let me elaborate on this. I think the problem here with the PlayStation 6 handheld, hold on, before I get ahead of myself, there's one thing we have to make clear right now, and this is so important to establish because it's true, nothing has been announced or confirmed. We don't know if this PlayStation handheld is going to actually be part of the PS6 family. The leaks have indicated that it seems like it will, but Sony could make the decision, and this is important to highlight because it would kind of avoid some of the problems we're talking about here. It would create a whole different batch of problems that would probably be a nightmare for Sony. But from the consumer side, it's like, no. This isn't a PlayStation 6 handheld. That's not what this is. This is just the PlayStation Portable 2. This is just the PlayStation Portable. That's what it is. Not the PS6 Portable. It's just a PlayStation Portable. It sounds silly, but if you think about it, it's like if Sony were to make it clear that this is a standalone device. Do you get what I'm saying? Where there's no requirement from developers. This isn't tethered to the PS6 in any way or the PS5. It's just on its own. And it's up to developers. If devs want to make their game playable on this thing, they can. But they don't have to. And I guess what I'm trying to say is like creating that separation in terms of how it's perceived. You see the risk associated, though, because it's like we've seen Sony do that before, and it can lead to neglect. It can lead to, well, if this thing doesn't sell well, developers are less inclined to, I don't know. It's fucking messy, I'll tell you. But the reason why I don't think it's necessarily going to be a Series S scenario is because I don't think the problem is going to be like, oh, it's not enough. I don't think that's the problem. I think it's actually going to be the reverse, guys. I'm telling you, I think it's going to be the reverse, and I'm nervous about it. Where I think with the Series S and the Series X, there was this concern that the Series S is not going to be enough, and it's going to hold things back. And I think, to an extent, I mean, I don't know, it's fair to say that it held things back as much as it did run into some problems sometimes. But generally speaking, most developers have gotten their games up and running on the Series S. Granted, they look real bad a lot of times. Sometimes they look okay. A lot of times it's just like, I don't know who wants that. I'm going to be honest. I think with the PS6 and this handheld, and then you throw the PS5 in there, that's the important part. The PS5, I think it's more of an opposite scenario where it's not that the PS6 won't be capable. It'll be it's not that the PlayStation handheld won't be capable. It'll be very capable. It's powered by RDNA 5 tech. It's going to be mostly software based. It's going to do the heavy lifting. No problem. PS5, well, we already see how that is. The PS5 isn't going to be a problem because devs already know how to make games for the PS5, and we already kind of see the upper limit to a degree of what we can expect. And it's more than enough for a lot of people. I think the real problem then becomes, okay, well, so what the hell is the PS6 going to do? So I think it actually becomes a more of a question of it's not about scaling down, it's actually about scaling up. I think that's the scenario we're potentially looking at, unless there's something I'm completely missing with the PS6, but I don't think there is, where it's kind of like what we established, right? Like there's going to be PS5 games are going to be made for like a decade, dude, and it's just like are developers going to say we're going to target the PS6 first and then scale down to the PS5? Or is it more likely they're just like, we're going to just continue to target the PS5 and we'll scale up to the PS6? I mean, considering most of the new technology that we're going to get from this RDNA 5 based PS6, it's going to be software based. I mean, I'll be honest, I actually don't know the answer to that question. I don't know if that changes their developer's approach. I mean, I assume it'll be different for each developer, but I'm just thinking that, yeah, even just based on the user base alone. And we have Kazjam with the super chat saying it could be that games are developed for PS6 and then scaled down to the PSP2, unlike the Series S, where all games had to be designed for the Series S as the base. Well, that's another. You're absolutely right, Kazjam. Like that's another major differentiating factor. Is everything we've heard about the PS6 handheld, or sorry, I don't know whether to call it a PS6 handheld or just a PlayStation handheld, but this new Sony handheld, everything we've heard about it, there's been nothing that has claimed or indicated that there's going to be some kind of parity mandate or a requirement. Like my understanding is devs can just look at it and say, we're good. That could change. We don't know what Sony's plan is here. I think this is something Sony's having a really hard time figuring out themselves, where it's like, what do we do here? Like, do we make it so they have to make a PlayStation handheld version or not? And I think this is where Sony has to make that critical decision. And I think this is we've talked about pricing, but a critical decision of is this handheld a PS6 device or is it something separate? We have to decide that. And Michael Werneth comes in. Michael, once again, doing some heavy lifting. He drops 5 member gifts for you. He opens the 5-pack. Michael, I love to see it, bro. Thank you so much for that, man. Let's get some 5-pack emojis. He's enjoying this conversation. It's for you, Michael. Thank you. I will add that to the counter. Yeah, guys, I forgot to mention, I mean, you most of you already know, but if you want to help support the channel directly, we're completely fan funded. Consider becoming a member, gifting memberships. We hit 25. I guess I'll play the drums. Yeah, we're sponsor free. I can only do what I do here because you make it possible. So thank you. And I have a couple of direct donations, or at least one here from Moonshot. Hold on, sorry. I'm going to add that. There we go. Please like the video for the love of boss. Yeah, guys, make sure you're hitting that like button as well. If that's the only thing you can do to directly help the stream is hit the like button, please do it. It helps more than you know. We're sitting at 72 likes. And I have Moonshot here. It's over MBG. That hypothetical Bloodborne remake will have a PS5 version, maybe a Switch 2 version 2. The horror. That's not what Josh said. Josh said with a $2 tip, if the Magnus releases before the PS6, it will suffer even more, at least in terms of perception. PS5 will be prioritized and Magnus features rejected. Well, see, that's the thing about Magnus. I think the biggest wild card factor for Magnus is Steam. I think that's the safety measure. That's the safety net. Where, from Microsoft's perspective, it's what song are we talking about? You playing? Oh, I don't know, bro. Somebody said Creed yesterday. I'm like, I don't know. It sounds kind of shitty through my microphone, but it's whatever, man. Yeah. Does he have a do you have a request, Titus? Rush. I was like, yeah, play YYZ, bro. Like, okay, yeah, sure thing, bro. Coming right up, Titus. The thing about Magnus, its features being rejected. I mean, I don't think it's gonna really have any specific features. I think it's just gonna be, it's a PC, man. Like I think it's a safety net, Steam, that is, where if developers stop making Xbox versions of games, if, like worst case scenario, developers abandon the Xbox ecosystem. Somebody who bought Magnus still doesn't lose because they have Steam. And that's an ecosystem, that's a storefront and an ecosystem that no dev will abandon ever. So I think the perception for Magnus is just, like, I'll be honest, man, like I don't think Xbox's perception can suffer anymore. I don't think it can. I really got to get that mustache wax, man. My mustache is curling in real time. I don't think it can, because it's just like, look at what they did, man. Like they like, make no mistake, Microsoft killed their own console because they just are like, yeah, man, we're going to increase the price to a ridiculous degree where we should be making it clear that we don't care if you buy it. If you buy an Xbox at this point in time, it's because you really, really, really want one. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's just that Microsoft, they're just, I think that's them just preparing people. Like, see, we're doing the thing. I remember when I saw everybody's reaction to the Xbox Series X and S price increases. We're like, oh my God, almost $700 for a Series X. And I'm like, dude, it's because they're letting you know. They're letting you know, man, like we're not trying to move these things en masse. And if we're going to leave it there if you want to buy it. We're just making sure that we make a profit off of everyone. So, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the perception can fall further, but I just think people have kind of settled on this idea that, yeah, Magnus is basically, for all intents and purposes, going to be a mega powerful PC that if you are coming from the console, you can assuming they get it where it needs to be, you'll have like a console wrap to navigate, and it'll feel like a console, but it's really not. So I think Steam is the safety net there, Josh. That's my, I don't know, man. That's my assumption on it anyway. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Microsoft has something else up their sleeve, but I'm not anticipating it. I would be very surprised in the hardware space if Microsoft has something up their sleeve. What? Yeah, we have Jesus Aguilar, the brother of William Aguilar. I don't know who he's really his brother. Yeah, Shadowlink, I decided to go with the goatee. You know? Just preparing for the I'm just preparing for the state of play, you know? This is how I prepare. I'm a weirdo. So as you know. But 5080 performance for 1K is insane value. Well, that's the thing. As of right now, everything is pointing towards it being more than 1K because, yes, 5080 performance at this point is like, how much is this thing going to cost? Oh, yeah. By the way, so I know some people are here today and they weren't here yesterday. We've been testing it out. I don't know if it'll continue or not. If we hit 25 members, a new reward is I will drum. You won't see it, not yet anyway. You'll just hear it. So I don't know. Some of you guys really enjoyed that yesterday. I don't mind it, but one of these days I'm going to trip over the wire and it's going to be, I got so many wires because it's an electric kit. Almost busted my ass yesterday. You won't. Yeah, that's right. You won't see it, Titus. You'll just fucking hear it. Listen. Eventually, you'll see it. Eventually, I refuse to show the basement until it's finished. Okay, I'm not showing you it when it's like 85% done. When it's done, it's done. Accept it. Better put that down to 12 members. Hey, it's worth 25. I want to believe it's worth 25. Perfect Image with a direct donation says the difference with Xbox, the power of scaling graphics is hardware. Sony Next Gen is software. Yes, that's very true. Yeah, I mean, we're seeing like a complete opposite approach, basically, where, Microsoft is just, I mean, more than ever, they're brute forcing it, where it's just, hey, we're going to give you 5080 performance, not through some, crazy software techniques, like just through sheer, raw compute power, like, through the silicon. And it's like, literally, this is the worst time for them to do that. But luckily, I don't think they care. Another 12 for the video, too. Dude, I'm not going to lie. I tried recording a little something yesterday, and we got time. It did not come together. And I'm like, it's going to be a while, but I would like to get it to a point where I can like literally have an acoustic drum kit, mics set up, and properly record it or stream it or something. I don't know. I got a long way to go. I'm making do with what I got. I'm stupid. All right. What do you want from me? I'm stupid. Also, MBG, you should check out how 2nm chips look like, what they look like under the microscope. If you've never seen it, it's crazy. What does it look like? Does it look strange? Does it look bizarre? Did you get to my question about Boss and a strictly focused to them? Let me see. I did not see your question. Would you be willing to have a stream with all of your cats, or at least Clark, focused, or just Boss hang out? I would become a member to see that. You want me to just do a cat stream? Isn't that what half my streams already are? No, he's literally saying like, no, just the cats, bro. Not even me, just the cats. Literally just the cats. I don't know, man. I got to be careful. I don't want to turn the channel into something completely different. Yeah, Nate the Hate, Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 to release simultaneously on all platforms. I assume that was the case. It's pretty clear by now that there's no deal in place with Sony and Square anymore, which is for the best, honestly. MBG RE9 Requiem, runs at 60 FPS on Switch 2 in performance mode. PS5 is in jeopardy. It's how small the circuits are. We got like microscopic circuits, microscopic circuitry. When are my consoles going to have nanomachines in them? MBG, Sony Studios are also taking too much time between game releases. This might be an issue for Sony in the coming years. What do you think? Yeah, I mean, I think it's already kind of become a little bit of an issue for them. I think they're navigating it well, though. Like, I think they're just dealing with it. Still working pretty well for them, but I don't know. I mean, my assumption is that now that they've learned the hard way, with the shotgun approach with live service, my assumption is that they're gonna, that in the next 5 years, we're gonna get more games because they don't have studios who should have no place working on a live service game. Instead, they're gonna be working on games that actually make sense. They make sense. And Titus Crow drops a £5 super chat saying, for the drumsticks, man. Thank you. Dude, I've been using the same pair of drumsticks. No joke. I've been using the same pair for like 9 years. No joke. I legit need a new pair of drumsticks because, I mean, I've been playing on electric kit, so it's like they haven't really, Their damage hasn't really been sustained. I remember when I was playing acoustic kits, though, man, like drums, I'd be like whittling the drumstick down to a point where it's like it looks like it was just shaved, like I'm trying to make a spear or something. Good times. Thank you, Titus. I appreciate that. He supports the drums. Yeah, eventually we're gonna build up. We're gonna build up to a point where I get a nice acoustic set, get mic'd up. Hopefully I can figure out how to mess with the software. John Bonham used to go through about 10 a night. I believe it. My God, the way that guy was playing. What a legend. John Bonham is such a legend, man. You have to watch IGN's RE9 Switch 2 preview right now on stream. It's short. Please, I beg you. I ain't watching that shit. I don't want to see no Switch 2. Yeah, I'm going to stream that Switch event tomorrow and shit on everything. Well, maybe not everything, but I don't know. MBG, I've waited too long for RE9. No way I'm playing it on the Switch for the sake of playing it. First day on PS5. Yeah, well, I mean, I understand where Tarnish is coming from. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, where there's just this kind of like, it's the fact that a big, tentpole release, AAA release from Capcom, a game that's going to be big in the industry this year, is launching day one on the Switch 2 and looking pretty good, running pretty good. Nothing. It's not like dog shit. It's I feel like with the Switch 1, there were just third-party games where people looked at it and were like, okay, like this is literally laughable. I think the Switch 2, it's not so much that anymore. And yeah, so you could kind of understand, I think, why Sony probably has to pay some attention to that. Hold on one sec. DLSS is doing the heavy lifting on the Switch 2 for sure. Well, yeah, I mean, and that's kind of the thing. I feel like with the Switch 2, we're seeing an early example of what most of the PlayStation 6 and the PlayStation handheld, what it's kind of going to be relying on. While it's not DLSS, it's going to be PSSR. And I got to try to memorize the names of the other technologies, but there's like 4 or 5 other different technologies that Sony is working on with AMD that, these are going to make up like the core foundational pillars of PS6 game development. And see, here's the big thing. Like, when we talk about the PlayStation 6, Mark Cerny himself said that, yes, this is a full step change. And I'm like, that's really interesting. Because if this is a full step change and not a half step change, then, I mean, what that basically means is like Sony kind of needs, like Sony is going to need developers like, we got to move forward now. Like we're all moving forward. We're using these. And Mark Cerny kind of said it himself where he was like, he's excited to see what developers end up doing when they get these new technologies in their hands. And as far as I'm aware, these technologies are not going to be able to, I don't think they're compatible with the PS5. Cobra says, this guy's boring. This want to put me to sleep. Well, Cobra, shut the fuck up. That's fine, bro. Hey, listen. Do you know why I don't take offense to that? I don't take offense to that because there are literal YouTubers that I do put on at night that help me go. They help me fall asleep. Not saying who they are, but there's like this one YouTuber, and he has like this really chill voice, and half of the comments are people talking about him like being part of their sleep routine and putting them to sleep. Hey, man, I like to think I'm helping. The door's over there. No, it's okay, Cobra. You could stay. Stay. It's fine. It's fine. Someone remind MEG how many still use the PS4. I actually don't know. I don't know what that number is now. FSR 3 works on the base PS5. but not FSR 4, right? 40 gigabytes of RAM and 41 T flops for PS6. Dude, 40 gigabytes of RAM, bro. I mean, no, 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 no. No chance. At this point, especially no chance. 50, I don't believe that for a second, man. 50 to 70 million PS4 users from Kepler. Wait, Kepler leaked that? No way. Come on. Magnus is coming. The ponies are running scared. The pony meltdown is coming. They ain't even ready. Dude, you know what's so funny though is you're gonna see people coming out flexing with the Magnus. My Magnus is gonna eat the PS6 for breakfast. And it's like, hell yeah. I think. I don't know. Reminds me of the Xbox Series X and the PS5 and the T-flop talk. Moore's Law is dead, and Kepler said 40 gigabytes of RAM and 41 T-flops. Dude, if there's 40 gigabytes of RAM in the PS6, I'm just like, okay, well, I guess it's over then. Considering how expensive RAM is now, it's like, how could that be possible? Like, how could they achieve 40 gigabytes of RAM and still make it affordable? You know? I have no idea. Cobra says, just kidding around. I know, bro. It's all good. Listen, I don't mind if people want to bust my balls. In fact, I encourage it. Most of the time. Unless you hurt my feelings. It eats, oh yeah, there it is. It eats monsters for breakfast. That was the line that haunted the Series X, dude. It eat monsters for breakfast. 32 gigabytes. I mean, $32 sounds better to me, but I mean, yeah, at that point, I guess you'd have to factor in like, I mean, what would the difference be for game development at that point? What did Rockstar confirm? Yeah, I didn't even talk about that yet. The big thing, I probably should have mentioned this earlier. I knew I should have started with Grand Theft Auto. The big thing with GTA 6 is Take-Two's CEO, Strauss Zelnick. They did their earnings yesterday. He confirmed, he said, in regards, he was asked directly, like, you know, are you going to delay the physical versions of GTA 6? That was a report that circulated all last week. It was like one of the biggest reports. We talked extensively about it. He confirmed, like, that's not the plan. There's not going to be a delay. So we pretty much got confirmation that the physical version of GTA 6 is launching the same day as, you know, when it launches digitally. Unless, you know, he's lying, which wouldn't make any sense. But, you know, that I think is some pretty big news for a lot of people because there were people who were like freaking out about that. You were watching the last Fallout TV show episode yesterday, and it was sponsored by Xbox, and they claimed all the Fallout games are on Xbox. And they also played the Everything is Xbox commercial. I love that ad. I love it. That's why I look forward to when I can talk about Xbox in my videos because I get to bring that ad up. I was just looking at the Order 1886 and still looks like a PS5 Pro game. Ready at Dawn, we're cooking. I know, man. I feel so bad for Ready at Dawn. I feel like they just got the shit end of the stick, man. I mean, I guess it happens, but I feel like Ready at Dawn, they were a studio that I think Sony had very high expectations from, and the Order 1886, it had issues for sure. There's no denying it had issues. A lot of the criticisms I think are fair, but I just feel like that was a studio that, like, if they were just given a second chance, I think greatness literally awaited them, you know? But I don't think they were given that opportunity. And then, unfortunately, they were fucking bought by Meta, and now they're just closed. Now they don't exist. So, you know, in an alternate reality, we would be sitting here with the Order being a series, a new franchise, you know, a major franchise underneath PlayStation. We'd be sitting here talking about getting the Order the third order game. But yeah. What are you going to do, I suppose? Nothing, right? All right, where are we at? Oh wow, okay. I just realized we're like an hour and a half into the stream. I'm surprised. I thought where'd the time go, man? Just like Days Gone. Yeah. Will the online mode for GTA 6 be out on release day, or is it going to be a while? I am not sure about that one. I mean, my gut tells me they're going to sit on it for a little bit. I don't think it'll be like a year later or something. They could do something crazy like that, shipping a year later, but I think it'll be like probably in like a few months or something. Maybe like 3 months later. Because they did say they're going to continue to support GTA Online 1, you know? UPS drivers were replacing people's cat food, or sorry, replacing PS5s with cat food. I wonder what they will use for copies of GTA 6. Yeah, they'll use copies of GTA 5. That's what they'll do. It's going to be a while. Also, the PS6 upgraded mode will probably release with the PS6 and PC release of the game. What if the new Cory Barlog game is a new order game and use the old game as a basis? Think about what was said about his game, it being old but feeling like a new IP. So I would, Ray, I would say you're cooking, bro. I would say you're cooking, but unfortunately, reliable insider Shinobi602, he confirmed, I think, sometime last year that it's not the order. He had to he responded to somebody who was saying something similar, and he's like, "Let it go, man. Like that's not what it is." I'm like, damn, that would be so fucking cool, though. Like that would be so cool. MBG, you realize we haven't seen Phil Spencer on camera in a year, ever since the price increases of Game Pass and games started getting ported to PS5. He's clearly hiding, but it still feels concerning. It's concerning. They got Phil locked up. What'd they do to Phil, bro? Will GTA 6 Online be crossplay with GTA 5 Online? I'm going to say no. Absolutely not. I don't think so. I mean, yeah, no, I don't think that's possible. GTA Online 2 will just take place in Vice City. And I think that, they could try to expand it down the line, but I don't know. We got to see what Vice City is even going to be like, man. Something tells me that it's going to be something tells me GTA Online 2 is going to be taken much more seriously than the first game was. Because when they launched the first iteration, it's not that they weren't taking it seriously at all, but they just had no idea. Rockstar and Take-Two Interactive had absolutely no idea what they were launching and how big it was going to be. Obviously, we're far removed from that now, and they now know that's their cash cow. So GTA Online 2 is going to be a big deal, I think. Very big. But I do think that they're going to try to not keep it separate from GTA 6, but I think there's going to be a gap, certainly, between the launch of GTA 6 and then here's the multiplayer and the online component. Do I think that Sarah Bonds is going to take over for the next console generation and we'll see Phil Spencer bow out? I mean, we can hope so. We can only hope. No, I mean, really, I don't like what is there left for Phil to do? I'm serious at this point. Like what I feel like this guy, like they basically were like, listen, Phil, you want your you want your promotion, you want to still be the head of gaming. Um, You want to retire gracefully. Well, you're going to have to bear the shame. Because I just feel like some of the shit that's happened. We watched that video the other day of a compilation of all the things he said, and the one that just really stands out to me is how he was asked, like, what game are you most excited for? And he's like, Everwild. And then that game got canceled like 3 months later. And I'm like, what is like? He's clearly not in charge of anything at all. Either that or he actually is just like kind of insane. And they're like, you can't go on camera anymore. Like, you need to stop talking. Because I can't imagine like Phil Spencer being like, yeah, he's on like a podcast. He's like, I can't wait for Everwild. That's my most anticipated game. And then like, 3 months later, he's like, kill it. Like it's like, are you okay, man? I don't know. Something, there's just, who knows what's going on with that leadership, man. I just think that, yeah, when Magnus is announced, I could see that being like Phil's kind of send off of like, all right, Phil, see you, like, thank you for, what's crazy though? I'll give Phil Spencer this, bro. He's been with Microsoft for like 35 years or something. Like by the time he retires, it's gonna be like 40 years. It's like, okay, man. All right, well, shit. He's a company man. MBG Nate the Hate just stated that Black Myth Wukong will come to Switch 2. Tarnished is panicking. Tarnished is like, what's happening? The Switch 2 is taking over. I'm telling you. This is I mean, I believe it. You gotta watch out. You gotta watch out for I mean, I don't think that's that big of a deal. It's the new games. Just pay attention in the next like 10 months how many games at events like Summer Game Fest and Gamescom and all the other events that are happening between this, even the smaller ones. Just pay attention to how many games are like, yeah, and we're launching day one on Switch 2. That's, I think, what you want to pay attention to. Switch 2 supremacy. Absolutely not. The only thing I was wondering is if the money gets switched to GTA 6, if I won't have the nightclub and agency, can I hop on GTA 5, get the money, and transfer it? Oh, yeah, dude. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to handle that stuff. I would say just play it safe and assume you're going to be starting over. Just assume you're going to be starting from square zero, with GTA Online 2. But it does feel kind of weird though, because like if you have a ton of money, I think they'll have you start with nothing, because I think they want to start everybody off on the same page. If they let you transfer over all your money, I mean, you'll be able to basically like do everything within a week. So Death Stranding is coming to Nintendo Switch 2. I wouldn't be surprised by that, actually. Death Stranding's already everywhere. Dude, Death Stranding's on mobile, so Switch 2 wouldn't necessarily shock me. What is this? Introducing the Beyond Arc bottom shell kit for the PS5 DualSense Edge. Better grip, more comfort, built for longer play. Redefine your DualSense Edge. Ooh, hold on. If there's one thing that Sony absolutely fucked up with the DualSense Edge, are the grips. Shit's already coming undone. I'm like, bro, this is a $200 controller. You fucking kidding me? I'm not even kidding. Like, I have my DualSense Edge, and the top corner of where the rubber grip is, it's peeling off. I'm like, so I'm like not surprised to see this. There's a company that made like how much is this? $29 pre-order. I'll put this in the I'm not sponsored or anything, but I'll put this in the chat. You check this out for any A DualSense Edge. Why does that link look like that? Jeez. Okay, I think the link's kind of broken, so I'm not going to be able to post it. But if you want to look it up, it's called Beyond Extreme Rate Beyond Arc for the DualSense Edge. Call of Duty Black Ops 7 Season 2 kicks off tomorrow. Let's go check the comments. When will Call of Duty be worth buying again? We are ready to suit up. Doesn't look good compared to other Call of Duty games. Worst Call of Duty history in terms of worst Call of Duty in history in terms of sales. All right. I won't lie though, like I'm seeing some people in there excited. So Halo will make a comeback on Sony. Dude. Just the idea that that's a I mean, you could be right. How cursed is that? You could be right. Rumor Final Fantasy. Okay, so I'm seeing Push Square. They're saying rumor Final Fantasy Remake Part 3 skips PS5 exclusivity, will be multi-platform straight away. I thought this was confirmed a while ago. So I'm just like confused seeing it as a rumor. But I guess it was never actually confirmed. All right. All right. You think Halo will sell huge on PlayStation? I don't. I used to think that Halo would do like millions on PlayStation. Now I'm unsure because Gears of War came to PlayStation and it seemingly like didn't do well. So I'm like, huh. Switch Force teases a killer shadow drop for the partner direct tomorrow. It's a vague statement, so take it with an extreme grain of salt. What do we think it's going to be? A killer shadow drop? Black Myth Wukong? Black Myth Wukong shadow drop? MP First is reporting marathon ranked mode details. Ranks: bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, and loser. Each rank has 3 subdivisions. Example: silver 1, silver 2, and silver 3. Ranked rewards include cosmetics and some items given after the season is over. All players will have access to low stake zones, and platinum and higher ranked players will have access to high stake zones. Holo tags is what will allow players to score rank points. Holo tags have rarities that can be looted from other players as well. Each tier expands credit capacity and score target. Huh. Okay. Like, can I just play this game yet, man? Like, I'm not trying to be that way, but it's like, come on, man. Yeah, so here we go. Nate the Hate, Black Myth Wukong is coming to Switch 2. That has to be the shadow drop. Right? No, that's the latest. I'm not asking, just questioning out loud. Wait, what's going on? MBG, what do you think they would take for Xbox? What do you think it would take for Xbox to cancel the Magnus altogether? And they just decide to be a publisher. I would say all 4 of their first party games flopping this year. Truthfully, the only thing that I could see happening to make them cancel Magnus, which I don't think they would at this point. But the only thing, it's not about their games flopping. I think their games will probably do fine. I think it would be Game Pass. I think if they saw like a massive exodus from Game Pass, like just losing millions of subscribers to the point where it's like, whatever, man. I think that would do it. But according to Microsoft, they still actually expect Game Pass to grow. So, all right. Just watched Switch 2 Pragmatic gameplay video. Looks good. Runs at 60 FPS as well. Capcom is awesome. Luna, did you not eat your treats? Come on. All right. You think this is Xbox's last generation? Oh, well, yeah. Yeah. It's not even a generation, man. Magnus is not like the thing about Magnus is it's not going to be a console, really. Like it's so you definitely can't even call it a generation. I think it's just the final resting place for Xbox where it's like, you know, Xbox ultimately evolved, or I don't know if evolved is the right word, but this is where it was always, not always, but my words are failing me. Xbox sucks. No, there we go. That's what I was looking for. No, I think that Magnus is kind of the final resting place for Xbox as a whole in terms of of what it was. It's like, it had a 25-year run, and it's going to kind of be, it feels like it's being absorbed. Maybe that's how I'm trying to describe it. It feels like what the Xbox console was is being absorbed by what is ultimately just PC gaming. Where it's like, yes, you can come with us now. We will take you. And I think, like, again, for the people who are left on Xbox who really want to upgrade to it, or they want to buy Magnus, it's like you will have what feels like a traditional console experience on it, but it's kind of like it's not real, if that makes sense. Like it's not actually the console experience. It's kind of a like a projection in a way. We're projecting this console experience. We're emulating it. That's what I'm looking for. We're like emulating a console experience on this PC device, on this personal computer. I think that's what Magnus is, and that's not what the Xbox consoles ever were. And so, from that point forward, I just feel like, yeah, there is no other generation after that. There's just more PCs that can emulate a console experience. I think that's fine. Makes sense. But can't deny it would be fascinating to see Microsoft do a more traditional console again. The Magnus isn't going to be as powerful as the current consoles. I'm pretty sure they'll make one or two more. Well, keep in mind, what we've heard about Magnus is that, well, not Magnus, but Xbox hardware starting with Magnus is OEMs are going to be able to make their own Xboxes. So, yeah, I mean, we'll probably get something more powerful than Magnus. We'll probably have an Xbox that'll be like $300, but it'll be made by like Lenovo or something, and probably be not good. I imagine this is the direction they're going in. This is what we've been hearing. Yeah. MBG, I have Elden Ring on PC and PS5. Is it okay to buy on Switch 2 as well? Absolutely not. Are you kidding me? Tarnished. Come on. Get it together. No, of course. Buy as many times as you want. Buy it on everything. To be fair, you can run Linux on PS2 and PS3 as well, which was done by Sony themselves, but that's different. Well, yeah, that is true. That's true. But yeah, I'm not sure. I think this is going to be a little bit different, you know? For the translation layer, the Magnus will need to be about 40% more powerful than the main thing is supposed to emulate. The Microsoft translation layer is way behind Valve's one. Interesting. I didn't think about that. Guys, by the way, we're at the hour and 50-minute mark. I think what I'm going to do is keep it a little bit shorter today. So I think we'll hang out here for about 10 more minutes and we'll do like this will be the last call, so to speak. If you guys want to drop any more support before we wrap it up today, I did put out a news video as well earlier. You can go check that out when you're done here if you want more. And we've done 3 streams this week so far as well. So there's plenty more content if you're interested in that. Plenty more discussions, but yeah, we got 5 members from Michael. So if you guys want to try to hit the goal before we head out, feel free. We did yesterday. You guys actually surprised me yesterday. I was saying we're gonna get a single train going, and you actually did. You did. Not only did you get a single train going, you actually crushed the goal. So thank you guys for that. See Microsoft doing the Asus thing in the future and offer Game Pass on anything they can. Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I think that's exactly what they're going to do. Ghetto God says, I just got home, MEBG. Got my Jeep towed and my tire replaced. You were alive long enough. Good. Glad. I'm glad, Ghetto God. That's exactly what I was hoping for. Okay. If Valve wasn't private, Microsoft would have more heaven and earth to buy them or to move. Microsoft would move heaven and earth to buy them just for the store and the translation software they took 10 years to perfect. That's the true value. Yeah, I believe that, Titus. I think Microsoft, yeah, you're right. They would move heaven and earth to get Steam and to get Valve. Sorry, I just keep checking to see if anything else came out. Game Pass on phone, Game Pass on TV, Game Pass in the car, Game Pass Airlines, Game Pass in the White House. MBG, I'm not worried about Nintendo as a competitor at all. They will never be able to run big AAA games like GTA 6 and Crimson Desert. Plus, let's remember, they're overcharging studios for their dev kits. Are they? That's news to me. Are they really? That's kind of crazy. That's true. Hold on. I never. Evidence suggests Nintendo is not necessarily overcharging for dev kits, but rather severely restricting their availability for the next gen Switch, causing frustration among developers. While initial older reports indicated the Switch dev kits were relatively affordable, around $400 to $450 in 2017, current reports indicate that for the upcoming console, the main issue is high demand and low supply. Oh, well, that's just I don't know if that's correct or not. That's what the AI overview said. Yeah. Check the Discord. Oh, hold on. A veteran Assassin's Creed designer leaves Ubisoft after 2 decades. Yikes. Well, that doesn't sound good. Yeah, what the hell? I don't know, man. Ubisoft is Yo, Ghetto God, you weren't kidding, bro. You were not kidding about the AI. Oh, some PS5 Pro bundles. All right, hold on. Yeah. Days Gone 2. I'm going to be in Days Gone 2, guys. No, I didn't see that Nintendo stock took a nosedive over 10%, even after their earnings report. Why? That's crazy. 45 million Xboxes sold? I don't think it's 45 million. That sounds like a lot. Got damn that GTA. Where's the 8K logo? It's missing the 8K logo. I think this is going to be real. I don't know if it'll be a custom one like this though. I don't know about that, but yeah, pretty sure there's going to be a bundle. The investors are not confident in Nintendo's growth. Oh, wait, Dillo, is that true? You're saying they stopped giving numbers just like Game Pass? Really? I guess that would explain it. That would explain it. But all right, guys, I think that's going to wrap up today. I'm going to keep it a little bit shorter. You know, I don't want to just. I kind of extended. I think my last two streams, way longer than they should have been, which is fine. We can do that. I don't want to do that every time, though. You know, you drop 20 memberships, I'll stay for another 20 minutes. All right. So you have approximately 30 seconds to make that happen. If not, we're going to wrap up. I'm just kidding. Please don't drop 20 memberships. I'm not going to stay for another 20 minutes. The Nintendo stock is down 33% from its high before Switch 2, as I've been predicting. The sell isn't deep into the Switch 1 base and is slowing. That's going to be interesting. Days Gone is a great game. But all right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. I only have one request from you, and that is, as you are heading out, please take a moment and hit that like button. But thank you for hanging out with me. And if you dropped any support today, memberships, if you became a member, gifted memberships, direct donations, super chats, thank you so much for that. I can only do what I do here because you guys make it possible. So as I said, I put out a news video earlier. You can go check that out if you want more content. And then if you want even more after that, we got, a whole week's worth of streams practically up. So it's all good, Ray. There's no pressure, bro. But I do appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Yeah, we'll see what the rest of the week brings, and so I don't know for sure if I'm going to stream the Nintendo event tomorrow. I don't really ever stream Nintendo events, so don't be upset if I don't. Okay, I fucking hate Nintendo. I don't hate them. I just I don't know if I'm going to stream it. So just check in, on the channel early tomorrow, and if there's a stream set up, there's a stream set up. On membership last week's streams. Yeah, I gotta do that. I don't know if I'm gonna do it all at once. It's gonna notify everybody, but maybe I'll do one a day or something. Although there's nothing really. I mean, at this point, it's all old news, But yeah, it does look kind of weird, doesn't it? But oh yeah, and shout out to Devil Shooter who does the timestamps for the streams. If you guys see Devil Shooter in the comment section with those timestamps, give him some thanks, show him some love. I know he appreciates it. Devil Shooter, thank you for what you do, man. And that's it, guys. Please enjoy the rest of your day. I will catch you in the next one. All right. So until then, take care, everyone.